Today, I want to talk about something that isn't often spoken about directly, but many people, men and women alike, experience it in silence, regret. More specifically, or I want to focus on a situation that unfolds too often in relationships, when a woman begins to miss the man she once took for granted. Or appreciation is one of the most powerful emotional currencies in a relationship, yet it's often undervalued or inconsistently given. At the beginning of many relationships, or there is an abundance of compliments, gratitude, and acknowledgement. Every gesture, no matter how small, is celebrated. But as time passes, or what once felt special can become routine, and the person who once felt cherished can begin to feel invisible. This shift doesn't usually happen intentionally, rather, or it's the result of becoming too comfortable, too familiar, and sometimes too distracted to notice the effort someone is still putting in. And this is where things begin to unravel, because when appreciation becomes conditional instead of consistent, emotional disconnect is never far behind. Or when appreciation is conditional, it's based on expectations, convenience, or the scale of the action. For example, or someone may only express gratitude when something big is done, like a grand romantic gesture or a rare act of sacrifice, while completely overlooking the small or daily efforts that are the backbone of lasting love. Things like a partner remembering your schedule, making you coffee, listening after a long day, or even just checking in to see how you're doing can go unnoticed when you're caught up in your own world. But it's exactly these little things that form the emotional glue of a relationship. When these gestures go unrecognized, or it doesn't just diminish the act, it diminishes the person behind it. The truth is, people don't stop doing things because they want to. They stop because they feel unseen. Or everyone wants to feel like their effort matters, like their love is acknowledged. If every time they show up for someone, they're met with silence, indifference, or entitlement, eventually they start to question their role in that person's life. That's how resentment builds. That's how emotional withdrawal begins. Or it's not always a dramatic fight or betrayal that ends a relationship. It's often a slow erosion caused by a lack of appreciation, the most painful part. Or once someone begins to feel unappreciated, their behavior changes. They may become quieter, more distant, or less willing to give what they once gave so freely. And often, or it's not until they stop doing those things, until their energy is noticeably absent, that their presence is suddenly missed. But by then, the damage may already be done. Or relationships are not sustained by love alone. They require active maintenance. And appreciation is a major part of that maintenance. It's how we let someone know, or I see you, I value you, I don't take you for granted. The consistent appreciation doesn't mean constant praise or over-the-top gestures. It means being mindful, present, and intentional. It's saying, thank you, even when something is expected. It's noticing the effort your partner puts in, even if it's something they've always done. Or it's letting them know that their presence, their time, and their love are meaningful to you. These seemingly small acknowledgements can be the difference between a strong or thriving connection and one that silently falls apart. Inconsistent appreciation can send a dangerous message that someone's effort is only valued when it's convenient, or rare, or dramatic. But love should never have to be loud to be recognized. The quiet, everyday expressions of love, those are the ones that need to be seen the most. And when appreciation becomes a natural part of daily interaction, it nurtures trust, emotional security, and deeper intimacy. At the end of the day, people remember how you made them feel. If they felt invisible, unimportant, or replaceable, they may start to pull away. But if they felt seen, valued, and appreciated, they'll stay, and they'll continue giving the best parts of themselves. Not because they have to, but because they feel inspired to. Or emotional neglect is one of the most silent yet damaging issues in a relationship. It doesn't come with loud arguments or dramatic exits. It creeps in slowly, or often unnoticed at first, until one day someone wakes up and realizes they feel completely alone, even while lying next to the person they love. That's the power of emotional neglect. It's not about what's said or done. It's about what's missing. The absence of affection, attention, connection, or an understanding is what truly breaks people down over time. It usually starts small. Maybe a partner stops asking how your day was, or maybe they no longer notice when you're upset, or they brush off your feelings as if they're inconveniences. At first, you might excuse it. They're busy, you think, or they're just tired, you tell yourself. But as these moments pile up, a painful pattern starts to form. You begin to feel like your emotions don't matter, or like your needs are too much, or worse, like you're slowly becoming invisible. Or the tricky thing about emotional neglect is that it doesn't always come from a place of malice. Sometimes people become emotionally unavailable without even realizing it, or stress, routine, personal struggles. All of these can cause someone to emotionally check out. But regardless of the reason, the result is the same, or a growing emotional distance that leaves one partner feeling starved for connection while the other remains unaware of the damage being done. Or people often associate relationship problems with fights, cheating, or major betrayals. But emotional neglect can be just as harmful, if not more so, because it's quiet, or it gives no warning signs until the emotional disconnection has grown so wide that repairing it feels impossible. One partner may be begging silently for attention, or for a sign that they still matter, while the other believes everything is fine because there's no conflict. But silence isn't peace when it's filled with unmet emotional needs. Or what makes emotional neglect so painful is that it leaves the affected person constantly questioning their worth. When your feelings are ignored or dismissed repeatedly, or it sends the message that your inner world doesn't matter, you start to suppress your emotions just to avoid the disappointment of being overlooked again. Or you smile when you're hurting, you stop asking for what you need. And over time, that emotional suppression turns into emotional numbness. Eventually, or the person who feels neglected may begin to withdraw. They may stop trying to connect, stop initiating conversations, or stop being vulnerable altogether. And that's when relationships reach a breaking point. Not with shouting, but with silence. A partner might look around one day and wonder why the other seems so distant or so cold. What they fail to see is that the emotional disconnection wasn't sudden. It was the result of hundreds of small moments where their partner felt unseen and unheard. Or the saddest part is that emotional neglect is often only noticed when the neglected person decides to leave. Suddenly, the other partner wants to talk, wants to fix things, or wants to reconnect. But by then, the emotional damage may be too deep. Because when someone has been emotionally starved for long enough, or even breadcrumbs of attention no longer feel like enough, they've already learned how to live without it. The solution isn't grand gestures or last-minute efforts, or it's about presence. It's about consistently showing up emotionally for your partner, listening when they speak, and noticing when something feels off. Or it's about creating a safe space where emotions are not only welcomed, but respected. Emotional neglect doesn't have to be permanent, but it does require both people to recognize it and actively work against it. In any relationship, love isn't just shown through words, it's shown through emotional availability, empathy, and genuine connection. And when those things go missing, the love may still exist, but the relationship begins to die, quietly, slowly, and often without either person fully realizing it until it's too late. Or people don't always leave relationships because they stop loving someone. More often than not, they leave because they no longer feel seen, heard, or valued. Or feeling undervalued chips away at a person's emotional well-being day by day until staying feels more painful than walking away. The saddest part is that it usually doesn't happen in one big moment. It's a slow, gradual realization that despite everything they've given, time, energy, love, or support, they are constantly met with indifference, criticism, or silence. At the beginning of a relationship, it's common for both partners to give generously, or compliments flow easily, appreciation is expressed frequently, and effort is mutual. But as time goes on, some people begin to take their partner's consistency for granted, or they assume the love will always be there, that the person will always stay no matter how little they receive in return. that's when the dynamic begins to shift. Or the partner who once felt important starts feeling like a background character in someone else's life. Being undervalued doesn't always look dramatic, or it's not necessarily about being yelled at or mistreated. Sometimes it's much more subtle. It's when someone stops noticing your efforts, or it's when your opinions are ignored, your emotions are brushed aside, and your presence is no longer acknowledged with warmth or interest. Or it's when the things you once did out of love start feeling like obligations because there's no appreciation coming back. Over time, or that lack of recognition becomes exhausting. People stay and try for a long time. They bring up how they feel, hoping things will change. They give chance after chance, or trying to make their partner understand that they're hurting. But when nothing changes, when their feelings continue to be overlooked, they start to feel foolish for caring so much. That's when the emotional detachment begins. And once someone starts emotionally checking out, it becomes much harder to bring them back. Walking away is rarely the first option. It's usually the last resort, or after countless internal conversations and silent heartbreaks. But eventually, the cost of staying becomes too high. People leave not because they want to hurt anyone, but because they realize they're hurting themselves by staying. They realize that love should not require constant begging for attention, respect, or appreciation. And the one who took them for granted is often shocked. They may say, "I didn't know you were unhappy," or "Why didn't you tell me?" But the truth is, most people do speak up. They just get tired of repeating themselves when nothing changes. By the time they leave, they've already mourned the relationship, or they've already grieved the emotional connection that disappeared long ago. Being valued in a relationship isn't about constant praise or dramatic gestures, or it's about the small, consistent signs that your presence matters. It's about listening without judgment, showing gratitude, making time, and putting in effort even when things aren't perfect. It's about seeing your partner as a priority, not just a convenience. When someone feels truly valued, they thrive, or they give more, love harder, and stay loyal because they feel emotionally safe. But when they feel like they're being used, dismissed, or emotionally starved, no amount of history or love will make them stay. Respect, appreciation, and emotional connection are not optional. They are necessary for any relationship to last. At the end of the day, people remember how you made them feel. If you made them feel small, ignored, or unimportant, don't be surprised when they eventually walk away to find peace and validation elsewhere. And once they leave, it's not their absence you'll feel the most. It's the absence of the person you had who only wanted to feel valued. Regret is a powerful emotion, often arriving long after the damage has been done. It tends to show up in silence, in reflection, and in the moments when life slows down enough for us to think clearly. At first, everything might seem fine. Life moves forward, distractions keep the mind busy, and the absence of a person doesn't feel so heavy. But eventually, clarity sets in, and with it comes the realization of what was lost, what was overlooked, and what could have been done differently. People rarely recognize the true value of someone when they're still around. It's easy to assume someone will always be there, to get comfortable with their consistency, and to take their presence for granted. The person who called to check in, who forgave repeated mistakes, who stayed through emotional highs and lows, at some point, their loyalty can start to feel expected rather than appreciated. And when that happens, their worth becomes clouded by familiarity. But once they leave, the clarity cuts through all of that. Regret often begins with small flashbacks, memories of things that were once brushed off or minimized, the way they used to look at you, the thoughtful gestures you didn't notice, the patience they showed when you were difficult. You remember moments when they needed you and you didn't show up, or when they expressed their pain and you didn't take it seriously. In hindsight, those small moments weren't small at all. They were quiet cries for attention or for validation, for love. Clarity brings a kind of emotional sharpness. You begin to understand what they meant when they said they felt alone, or you realize how hard they were trying to hold the relationship together, even when you were too distracted or emotionally unavailable to see it, or the things that annoyed you before, their emotional honesty, their vulnerability, their need for reassurance, now feel like treasures you didn't know how to value, or what once felt overwhelming now feels rare. Regret also carries with it a sense of helplessness. You can't go back and listen more carefully, or you can't rewind time and be more present. You can't erase the hurt they felt while they were silently waiting for you to notice what they needed. Or that helplessness is part of what makes regret so heavy. It doesn't offer second chances, just reminders of the ones that were missed. Sometimes, or people only realize what they had after they lose it because they weren't truly looking at the relationship with open eyes before. They were operating on autopilot or assuming things would work themselves out, assuming the person would always understand. But no one stays forever when they feel unseen. And when they leave, or they often take their emotional investment with them, something that can't be easily replaced. The pain of regret isn't just about losing someone, or it's about recognizing that their love was real, that their presence was meaningful, and that you didn't meet them with the same energy. Or it's about knowing you had the chance to do better and you didn't. This kind of clarity is sobering. It forces growth. It opens your eyes to what really matters, or not just in relationships, but in how you treat people in general. It teaches you that love should never be met with complacency, that consistency should be cherished, and that emotional connection is something to be nurtured, not ignored. While regret is painful, it can be transformative. It becomes a mirror or reflecting your own behavior and choices, not to shame you, but to wake you up, to help you become better, not just for the people you meet in the future, but for yourself. Or because once you see clearly what you lost, you begin to understand the importance of never making the same mistake again. When relationships start to break down, or it's common to look for someone to blame often, or fingers point toward gender-based assumptions, phrases like men always do this, or women never appreciate that, dominate conversations, but the real problem in many of these situations isn't gender at all. It's complacency. It's what happens when someone, regardless of who they are, or stops showing up emotionally, mentally, or even physically for the relationship. The danger isn't in being a man or a woman. It's in taking love, effort, and consistency for granted. Complacency is quiet. It doesn't show up overnight, or it slowly settles in over time when one or both people start to believe the relationship no longer requires work. It shows up in missed conversations, unspoken needs, and fading effort. In the beginning, everything feels exciting and intentional. Both partners try to impress, to connect, to understand. But as time passes and the newness fades, or some people slip into a mindset of entitlement, they stop doing the little things they once did freely, assuming the other person will always stay regardless. Or this isn't about men doing less or women expecting too much, or the other way around. It's about what happens when either person starts coasting or believing love alone will sustain the relationship without effort, communication, or presence. When that happens, it creates emotional distance. It breeds resentment, or one person ends up carrying the weight of the relationship while the other becomes passive, assuming things are fine because there's no immediate conflict. Or complacency often looks like forgetfulness, forgetting to say thank you, to ask how your partner's day went, to notice when they're hurting. Or it looks like scrolling through your phone during dinner, ignoring signs of disconnect, and assuming that because you live under the same roof, you're still close. But being physically present and emotionally available are two entirely different things. One keeps a relationship alive, the other simply maintains an image of one. Or what's most damaging about complacency is that it's subtle. Unlike cheating or abuse, it's harder to name. It's not one huge betrayal, or it's 100 small moments where someone feels invisible. It's a slow death of intimacy and trust, caused not by cruelty but by carelessness. And unfortunately, or by the time the neglected partner speaks up or pulls away, it's often too late to fix what was broken over such a long stretch of silence. Or blaming gender for this pattern misses the real issue. Yes, men and women may express emotions differently, and yes, societal roles can shape how we show up in relationships. But emotional neglect and complacency are human problems, not gendered ones. Anyone, regardless of gender, can stop appreciating their partner, stop listening, or stop putting in effort, and anyone can be on the receiving end of that neglect. What truly sustains love is intentionality. It's showing up every day with effort, or not because things are falling apart, but because you value the person you're with. It's recognizing that love is not a one-time promise. It's a daily practice, or that practice can't survive on autopilot. It requires awareness, vulnerability, and the willingness to keep growing with your partner. Or if people spent less time blaming gender and more time examining their own behavior, more relationships would survive. Or because the real villain in many breakups isn't masculinity or femininity. It's the decision to stop trying. It's forgetting that your partner still needs to feel seen or wanted and appreciated no matter how long you've been together. In the end, love doesn't die from one big blow. It dies from a lack of attention, a lack of gratitude, or a lack of presence. And that has nothing to do with being a man or a woman. It has everything to do with being human. Self-worth is the foundation of every healthy relationship, or without it, people often find themselves settling for less than they deserve, tolerating neglect, disrespect, or emotional inconsistency in the name of love. But love that costs you your self-respect isn't love. It's a slow erosion of your identity when you don't recognize your own value. Or it's easy to mistake attention for affection, control for care, and inconsistency for passion. That's why self-worth must come first, because it teaches you how to be loved. Or not just how to love others. When you know your worth, you set boundaries, or you don't allow people to mistreat you repeatedly and excuse it as just how they are. You don't keep trying to prove yourself to someone who never sees your value, or instead you begin to understand that real love doesn't require constant begging, chasing, or sacrificing your peace, or it flows naturally between two people who respect each other, and that respect starts with how much you respect yourself, or the absence of self-worth often shows up in the form of overgiving. You try too hard, give too much, and pour endlessly into someone who barely gives back. Or you believe that if you just do more, love more, forgive more, understand more, they'll finally see your value. But people don't start valuing you because you break yourself to please them. They value you when you value yourself enough to stop trying to earn love through self-sacrifice. Or there's a dangerous belief many people carry that being chosen by someone else will finally make them feel worthy. So they chase validation, or thinking if they can get someone to love them, it will heal the parts of them that feel not good enough. But that's an illusion. Or no relationship can fill the emptiness created by a lack of self-worth. That validation has to come from within first, or else it will never feel real. Or no matter how much someone else offers, knowing your self-worth also changes the way you react to rejection. Instead of taking it as a confirmation of your inadequacy, or you begin to understand that not every connection is meant for you. And that doesn't mean you're unworthy, or it just means that your value isn't dependent on someone else's ability to see it. You stop trying to convince people to choose you and start choosing yourself more often. Or when self-worth is intact, it becomes easier to walk away from relationships that don't align with your peace, your values, or your emotional needs. Or you no longer accept crumbs of affection or inconsistent effort. You no longer shrink yourself to avoid conflict or stay silent just to keep someone from leaving. You speak up, or you take up space. You honor your feelings because you believe they matter. Or loving yourself doesn't mean you think you're perfect. It means you recognize that you are enough as you are. Or it means you are no longer willing to put yourself in situations that constantly make you question your worth. And when that shift happens, everything changes. Or you begin attracting people who respect you, who meet you with the same energy you give, and who don't make you feel like you have to earn their presence. Or self-worth isn't arrogance, it's quiet confidence. It's the calm knowing that you deserve to be treated well, spoken to kindly, and loved fully. Or it's the understanding that being alone is better than being in a relationship that makes you feel alone. At the end of the day, or how you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. And when you carry yourself with self-respect and self-love, or you don't have to demand anything, your presence will already show people how you expect to be treated. That's why self-worth must come first. Or because when you know your value, you stop settling for less than what love is truly meant to be.